All right, hello. Welcome everybody to OBM Unscripted. We have Ada with us today, and she is going to talk to us about systems, all things systems. So I would like Lena to introduce herself and just kind of give us a brief introduction, and we'll do that real quick before we get started.
Hey everybody, I'm Lena May. I am part of the unscripted team here, and I handle real estate operations and systems.
And I'm Christy, also a part of the OBM Unscripted team, and I specialize in business strategy and coaching. And we've got Ada here, and I said Ada before, I'm sorry. We have Ada here that is going to talk to us about all things systems. We're going to talk about operations, automation tools, team management, scaling, all the fun stuff that goes along with systems. So with that, I will hand it over to Ada.
Hello. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much to Christy and Lena for allowing me to join. I have been working as an OBM for um, coaches and agencies, and I've been able to really kind of look at all of the people's businesses and understand that at the end of the day, like systems, they're really great, and there are some obviously core rules to follow, but you really have to kind of understand it on a very customized level, which is the level of which your business is and who you are as a business owner. So that's what I wanted to specifically talk about in this AMA, really talk about the right systems to be able to use for your business and where it's at.
So what would you say, what are the must-have systems that every online business should have in place?
Definitely your operational systems. So that could include like your documentation. Um, I love using Google Drive a lot more than people might, think or realize. When it comes to documentation, I use Google Drive for Google Sheets and Google Docs, and I use Google Docs for standard operating procedures. That's just basically an instruction manual to show how a certain project or procedure is done. And then I love using Google Sheets for certain types of data management, analytical management, and even certain types of project management as well. It's a great low like price tool to be able to use. So I use that and that's under operations management. And then obviously I love under that will be task management and project management. So under operational management, kind of tasks generally can just be like some certain task that you need to do every day or whatever. But then projects will be like a set of tasks that is intended for a certain goal or a project. So that's part of it, and it's all under operational management. And then I really think that marketing systems is a really unavoidable kind of part of it as well. So you really have to think about what your marketing strategy is. And then the next thing will be to understand what tasks that you are doing in order to be able to have that marketing happen. I like to break it down in the three funnels, obviously three stages of the funnel. So that's top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. So top of funnel, that's your social media, that's your Instagram or Pinterest or whatever platforms you use, and whatever certain tasks that you do to have it get there. And then your middle of funnel, that would be your email marketing. So you have a certain amount of tasks, right? To be able to have that email marketing campaign happen, or if it's newsletters, having it happen as well. So that's your middle of funnel. And then bottom of funnel will be that kind of intake kind of area where people they come and they turn from people who have been interested and they kind of slowly get nurtured and then they kind of become your client, right? Or your customer or whatever it is. So that's another unmissable part when it comes to systems as well, what your marketing system is. And then we also have financial systems and analytical systems. That's under operational management. but that can be its own separate thing as well. Um, and then, yeah, like client experience and service delivery, that's another one. I love using Dubsado. It took me a while to understand Dubsado, but now I absolutely love it. I think it's such a great way to be able to have that follow up with clients, make sure that you don't miss any kind of payments, and really just make sure your client experience is as customized and as, as perfect as you want it to be. So that's kind of what I look at when it comes to systems and what I really try to focus on for my business and for my clients' businesses as well.
Yeah, so what I think I'm hearing you say is that there are like you would break systems up into segments or categories essentially. So not every business will have the same system, but primarily all systems need like marketing, financial, and operational
Yeah.
systems in place. So let's say we have a new client who has grown fast and hasn't really had time to set up like an operational, just the bare bones like scheduling and client management and that sort of thing. What's the biggest mistake you've seen business owners make when setting up their systems?
Not asking themselves the right questions. I think before you just start saying, oh, let me set up a system, you really have to ask yourself the right questions. And
Mhm.
those right questions include, what am I spending the most time on that I could really delegate to somebody else, or I haven't systemized? What do I find myself constantly having slipped through the gaps? What mistakes am I constantly making? Basically, just prioritize. That's really what you have to do when you're at that stage, when you're already like so big and you don't have enough systems that you need. You need to be able to prioritize what systems that you need to do right now that will have the biggest impact and basically not the least amount of time necessarily, but basically in the right amount of time that you can manage, let's say. So that's what I would say. Definitely asking yourself the right questions, understanding who you are as a business owner, and understanding your team if that's applicable. And then that'll really inform how your business runs, what your brand is. And then you can be able to start creating those systems for your business. So,
Okay, so are there how would you walk a client through how to set up that initial system or the initial like foundation for their system? Is there a process that you would use to walk a client through how to even begin to set up systems and why they should do that?
um, for me, as somebody who's an OBM, I'm usually the one who sets up the system. So I think on my end, when it comes to clients, what I really try to do is just ask them the right questions and have them answer. Even sometimes their answers won't be that full. So I really have to really probe and make sure to go deeper. And then I really just use those answers that they give me. And sometimes I'll have follow-up questions. And then that's how I'm able to create the systems. They don't really necessarily create the systems. I don't know how a lot of business owners, that's another fun thing. A lot of business owners, you wouldn't believe like what their back end is like. It's just it's a lot of kind of freestyling, and they just kind of have the gumption to go ahead and go after their dreams. But they do need that kind of right-hand person to be able to actually lock them down when it comes to certain tasks and processes and systems and all that. So that's really what I consider my job, is just asking them the right questions, really critically looking at what their patterns are, what I notice. If they ask me the question, if I ask them the questions and they answer me, but I feel like I don't have the full picture. With time, if I'm able to have that time in their business, I would say even within like a month, or yeah, like 3 weeks to a month, I can be able to notice certain patterns with what they like to do, what their communication time is. Maybe depending on if I'm on that front end and I'm able to see what their clients are saying or anything like that. If I look at their Instagram comments, if I'm able to like look at their messages, I'm able to understand what their clients are kind of feeling like they're missing as well. And that's what I use to be able to inform myself on what is best to create for them.
So are there So how would you help a client determine if their systems are working efficiently or if they need improvement? How would you like audit, I guess, to optimize a system or to make sure that it's working effectively?
So if they already have a system out and I'm really just trying to optimize their system at that point, a lot of the time I'm really just kind of understanding what their process is and then what kind of mistakes that might be going on in their business. So some clues I really look out for is if I feel like this my client is kind of frazzled, just generally, just working through their business. I feel they always feel like there's a lot of things going on. There's this sense of like overwhelmment. I look out for that. And then when it comes to their clients, I also look out for any kind of missed payments or if they have to follow up with their clients, but that's not happening. I look out for things like that. Um, I really just look out for what they're, especially I like to kind of focus on their operational systems first. That's what I personally like to do, but because marketing systems really, it could be like a whole other person, depending on what it looks like. Obviously, as I talked about before, it's like a three-stage funnel, and there's the top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. So I like to look at the operational systems first, generally, depending. I obviously ask the questions and all that, but that's what I really try to do. And then when it comes to their marketing systems as well, I can really just understand what their branding is, kind of what their process is as well for social media management. I kind of like to consult them when it comes to that rather than implementation. And then I really like email marketing actually. So I'm really not afraid to be able to kind of go into their email marketing and see what that looks like as well. And just to let you guys know, I think that when it comes to ManyChat or something like that, that's great. But it's really, really important to be able to be organized when it comes to things like this. So organizing the ManyChat keywords, because that's what's going to get them into um, signing up for that lead magnet, right? And the lead magnets that they have, really organizing that as well, not just for me to understand, because obviously maybe if you create it as that business owner, it seems easy to understand it. But if you're going to have somebody else come in, it's really important to be able to organize your lead magnets and all of that it'll just make things a lot easier on the other person's end as well. And it's always going to be easier for them as well. So that's what I look out for as well, seeing if their lead magnets are organized. And then it's really important to actually have the quality be really good. Obviously, it's one thing to have systems, but you also want the product to be good. And even though lead magnet is not necessarily the product, it's like a peak of the product. So I kind of go in and I make sure that their lead magnets at least like make sense. It makes sense to what their brand is, their brand is, their messaging, and really make sure that it aligns. And I try to make sure and see if it's organized as well. That's really important. And then when it comes to the lead magnet, and you have to really think about the follow-up sequences as well, that's what's really going to help them get nurtured into that bottom of funnel. So I could take a look at that. I audit that. And then after that, I can see about helping them with like email marketing in general, like actually creating copy for them. And that's kind of like what I really try to look at specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think all of that's a good flow to be in. And I'm having internet issues on my end. I don't know if I'm coming through clearly or not, but it's a
You're coming
little
through
choppy.
clearly
So
on my end.
okay, so I'm hoping that the recording also is okay, but so when you're setting up systems and you're optimizing and you're doing the audits, do you have any favorite tools for streamlining the operation or saving them time when they're setting up the funnel, but also will save them time in the long run as their foundational funnels?
Um, it really does depend on the client, what they like, what they don't like. If they're using certain platforms already, the last thing I want to do is get them signing up on some other platform because all of that takes sometimes a lot more time and there might be unforeseen factors. I usually don't like to start off with that, especially if with a new client with just like transferring. So I try to work with them when it comes to whatever platforms they have. If they don't have certain platforms for certain things that they need to be doing, then obviously I'll sign them up with the platform that I feel like is best for them. But in general, the platforms that I really like and prefer and I'll break it down and I'll tell you guys kind of why. I feel like this is a bit different, and I've talked about this, I think, with Christy and all that. But I really like using Slack, surprisingly. I know Slack is kind of thought of as that communication platform, but actually, as pretty recently, it's like recently as last year, I think around this time, maybe May of last year, June, they came out with basically Slack lists, which is basically like a simple project management system, which I found has been appropriate for the clients that I have. Obviously, you really have to look at it, and I can kind of talk about it more. But it's kind of more simple than ClickUp, but it has a lot more capabilities than you might think. It has graphs and it has automations that really help create like a project management system for certain tasks that I like to do. So I really like using Slack because I want to go where my clients are. And then when it comes to things like communication, they need to communicate with me somehow, right? So usually when I get them on Slack, that's the platform that they really use when it comes to like me, and the systems that I'm using are somewhere else and they're not really there, even though I signed them up. So I just kind of want to meet them where they're at. And that's my general rule. I want to meet where my clients are at. So I like using Slack because that's where my clients are at. So I like using Slack for project management, and I use it for other things as well. I use it for some slight data management as well. I don't use it for too much because I use the paid version of Slack. And then if it's a certain amount of data that's over, I'm sure they like want to charge more. And I'm really aware of things like that. So if I'm not really using Slack, my second favorite platform is Google Drive, Google Sheets, Google Docs, all that. I really like using Google Sheets for my data management systems. I use it for my analytical systems as well. I even use it for project management systems, not all the time, but I've used it before and it's really great. I use certain formulas for the automations. And if you really know about Google Sheets and Excel, let's say, you can basically get to a lot of what kind of ClickUp and those other project management systems do with the formulas that Excel/Google Sheets has. So that's one of my second favorite platforms. I use Google Drive in general just to organize everything. And it's gotten to the point that I have like several templates that I have, and I just put it under one folder, and it's a template folder. And it has all these different folders that include operational systems, analytical systems, certain email marketing schedules that I use, meeting schedules that I use, SOP templates that I have. And I love using that to be able to just kind of quickly get in there for new clients. And they're able to have all these like amazing templates that they really kind of need in their business. And for what I've seen, they usually don't necessarily have. And I like using Google Docs as well. You guys might have been using Google Docs, but obviously I like using it for actually writing down copy for the email marketing that I do. I find that when it comes to using certain platforms, I really appreciate low UI, like low user interface, because for me, it's faster load speeds, but also it's just less worrying about like I just find it a bit distracting when I'm able to just have something that's just a Google Doc or Google Sheets. I'm able to just focus on what matters, which is the data, which is the system, which is the design that I wanted to do. So that's why I really like using Google Drive and all these platforms. And yeah, I use ClickUp as well. I think ClickUp is really great. And I have ClickUp for my clients. I've used Monday.com before. So I use that and it's really great. I think it's a really great way to be able to use certain systems, especially if they're really big kind of client or they're an agency, because there is like so many amazing capabilities that you can do on ClickUp. It's crazy. I could go on and on. You can do like anything on there. So those are kind of like my three.
Yeah, I think I can concur with the Google Sheets. I'm a Mac person, which means I'm numbers. But before that, I worked pretty heavily in Excel, and I always explain to clients that Google Sheets is like Excel and numbers having a baby, and you've got like all the best parts in
Yeah.
one place. So there's things that each one can do, but in Google Sheets, you can do a lot of the same things in each one in one place. And so I have sort of started to
Yeah.
migrate over to Google Sheets for sure. So and it
Yeah.
is it's a platform, or like, yeah, I guess it is a platform. It's a platform that you can use that's free, so it's very efficient and saves money for new businesses. And it's so
Yeah.
versatile when you can use it for documents and creating spreadsheets and that sort of thing. And I love the formulas that you can do in those too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think those three are really great tools to,
Yeah.
and if nothing else, start with as an early business.
Yeah.
And you can definitely grow with them too. So you can even
Yeah.
communicate in real time using the Google Sheets. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
amazing. And that's one thing I forgot to mention as well, is just the data that you have or that are allowed to put on there. It's a lot more than something like ClickUp or Slack. So that's a big benefit, and that's why I like to use it for certain things that I feel like I don't need to use it on a certain platform, because I have to think about the data as well, right? Yeah.
So how would you, I guess we've already kind of talked about what are some low cost or free tools. I think the ones that we just talked about are definitely good for starting points. And even with mid companies that are just building their team. So how do you ensure that an automation, when you set something up for a client, doesn't take away from the personal touch of their business?
What do you mean by that?
So I know some of the clients that I've worked with, they're concerned with using automation because they don't want they want it to feel like it's coming from them and not necessarily like an auto response email sent out as soon as they do something. So I usually set a 30-minute or an hour delay just so that it feels a little more like I put my hand on it, even though I didn't. Because let's face it, as business owners, we have lots of clients and they all have needs, and it's hard to um, um, have personal touches with everyone consistently the whole time because we're limited on our time as well. So I'm assuming you use automation where you can to save your time, save time for yourself. So how would you ensure for a client that you can still get set up automation for them, but it still has like a personal touch coming from them, or it goes with their brand?
Yeah. I'm really like a big fan, and I'm an advocate of basically like guerrilla like tactics when it comes to marketing and systems, especially when small businesses like things happen, like things change last minute, there's mistakes. But I really want to be able to optimize for efficiency and really still keep that kind of high quality that maybe other big budget businesses might have, but have it on that level where on the back end it's kind of more unconventional, but it still looks super quality on the front end. So I use different strategies when it comes to that. But I like, okay, let's say specifically when it comes to something like AI, I am somebody who understands that AI is great, but I subscribe to like maybe like almost 100 kind of people who are in this space. So get a lot of their emails every day. And when I open the emails and I'm reading it, I can immediately tell, like sometimes even with the subject line, I'm like, this is AI.
Yeah.
Why is it AI? Why did that happen? Like, do you not care about your business or like what's going on? That's what I think whenever I read something like that. So I really think it's important to be able to keep your brand voice super alive, even if you're using kind of unconventional tactics. That's great. You have a certain budget, you have a certain amount of time, you have things to do, like, all that. I get it, but you still really have to keep that quality at the forefront, because really, I'm really getting people into that nurturing pattern is so important. You don't want to break them out of that. You don't want to kind of break that trust and, feel like they don't really know who's on the other side anymore. So with something like that, I can I can use AI, but it's not as prevalent as one might think. I would use AI, but I would say I actually did a YouTube video on this on using, I think it's coming out tomorrow. But it's basically like my 5 AI step strategy to not have your writing sound like AI slop. And one of the things that I mentioned is to really just make sure to go in and actually edit it yourself and make sure that read it critically, respect your audience, understand who they are, why you're writing it, and make sure that it does sound like you, that your voice is still alive. A lot of what a lot of what people do, I think, is just a matter of not critically looking at what they're doing. It's an over reliance on AI and not understanding it deeply as the fact that it's a tool. It's not magic. It's not, it's basically like a word calculator. So you still have to really take a critical eye on it. And you can do this with the time that you have, but you really just have to make sure that the quality is still there and really think critically about your audience, understand your audience and everything that you're doing, and really make sure that you're keeping that brand voice, that messaging alive no matter what, no matter how many like guerrilla tactics you're doing. It really still has to look clean on top and just keeping that in mind. I would say that as a general, I can talk specifics, but I'll go on and on. But as a general, just respect your audience and really just critically look at what you are outputting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I do want to switch a little bit just to make sure we're hitting different things within our hour, but let's move into scaling and team management. So what systems do you think should be in place before a business decides to hire a team? And I say team, it could be their first VA, or maybe they decide to bring an OBM on. But what systems do you think are fundamental for any business before they start hiring?
I think a fundamental is really understanding what your onboarding process looks like. And it's before they start hiring, you said?
Right. So they're ready to scale and they're ready to bring on teams or bring on a team or an employee or a contractor. What systems do you think they should have in place before they do that?
I understand what the hiring process is going to look like first before onboarding, and then the onboarding process. Understand what the time looks like. Don't be surprised by how long it takes. Give yourself a timeline for what the hiring process, what you want it to be, and the onboarding process, what you expect it to be. And if it's your first time onboarding, that's fine, but make sure to keep time. That's a really important thing. Honestly, time is money. Even if you're a small business, time is all money. Even if you're not making money yet, it's all money. So you really have to keep time as to how much time the hiring process will take, you want it to take, and the onboarding process that you expect it to take. And really just keep time as to how long this new person coming into your business, how long it's taking them, so that you can be able to use it for future things as well. So I would say that for the hiring process, you can really plan it out and make sure that you understand what you want from this new member in your business, what skills you want them to have, what platforms that you are planning on posting the job board on, what your interview process is going to be like, what criteria you're going to like use to whittle down the candidates. And then when it comes to selecting somebody, once you have selected that one person, how are you going to get them into your business efficiently? What I will say is that it doesn't honestly have to be perfect, but you do have to get started, right? You're going to make mistakes along the way if it's your first time, but that's okay. You need to really go back. Once you've created that document, that's that, let's say, onboarding SOP, standard operating procedure for onboarding, the first thing that you don't have to worry about it being perfect the first time. The first thing you have to worry about is just getting it completed. And then as you go on with the onboarding process and you really just practice, keep that practice in real time, then make sure that you're going into the document and you're updating it so that it's getting perfected at every stage and every opportunity that you have. So that's what I would really kind of say is to just make sure that you are always keeping documentation. Even if it doesn't seem like super important, you never know like how much your business could grow in however many months and all that. So it's important, especially for something like SOP. Maybe I'm speaking about it from my perspective, but for me, it's not that hard, especially with like ChatGPT nowadays and all that. Really just make sure that you have that process in mind, you understand what the timeline is, so that you can kind of plan things in your business with more awareness rather than feeling like you don't know what might happen, what's going to go on, how long it's going to take, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I always tell my clients is they need to create a job description for each thing that they do within their business, even if they don't plan on ever hiring or delegating out. That way they do have it in their back pocket just in case they need it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. So how do you think business owners can effectively delegate tasks when using systems?
A business. Be able to get tasked when using systems. Um, The great thing about systems is that that's the first stage before you honestly even start hiring. It's a huge mistake a lot of business owners make. They'll start hiring and they don't know what's going on in their back end. And then they'll complain that, the VA or something like that doesn't know what they're doing. And, I don't know. I really do believe that it's the person who is the most responsible that needs to kind of really take, like, obviously your hiring member really could be kind of bad at the job and this and that, but you really have to kind of take more responsibility as the business owner, understand that you need to create systems, you need to get the person prepared, you need to give the person time as well in your business, because it's just natural that they're gonna feel a little bit more discombobulated, especially in the first like couple weeks, and just give them that time to get used to your business, your time, your schedule, your systems, all of that. So that's one thing that I really want to make sure that people kind of understand. I've always said this like in movies, like if the acting is bad, people want to blame the actors, and it's like, yeah, that's possible, but I really kind of honestly blame the directors, because the directors are the ones giving them notes. Directors are the ones kind of making sure that their take is all right. They're the ones who call it when takes are done and they want to move on to the next scene. So it's really all at the hands of the director. And even though like some VAs or some OBMs might, or whatever, might have different skills than the other, you really have to get in control as the business owner and understand that you have a level of responsibility as introducing somebody to your business that's new to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit on something too. I think it's also important that the business owner has that mind shift change to be able to delegate out, because, as solopreneurs, they've been wearing all the hats and they feel like they're the only ones that can do the job effectively or efficiently. And I think they miss the opportunity to work on their business when they're stuck working in their business. And I think that if they can change that mindset and learn how to delegate tasks and using systems to delegate, it takes the personal aspect off the table, and it allows them to hand the new employee, here, this is how we do things. And I think it just makes it easier all the way around. But it's definitely a mind shift that the business owner themselves needs to take in order to delegate and make their systems work efficiently for the business. Um, so
Yeah.
how do you think the best way to create accountability within a team would be when using systems?
There are different levels of accountability that you can have. There's more like holistic accountability, and there is more like honestly concrete accountability, which is tracking all their time, right? And having them put down what they were doing at what time. Honestly, that's the most concrete like kind of accountability I can talk about. But there's other ways as well if you don't want to necessarily do that, you feel like it's redundant or whatever. You can, honestly, communication is so, so, so important. And I can talk about the word communication all day, but specifically what I mean is there's a lot more soft skills that that is in running a business that than people might yeah, they understand, but it's a lot more soft skills than people might necessarily kind of expect, I would say. So when you're talking to somebody who's a team member, yes, you know, they're really great skills, your resume was amazing, whatever, but they're also a person as well. They have certain ways that they understand things, there's certain ways that you can kind of talk about and then you can and they can respond to you in certain ways. So really taking the time, especially in the first 4 weeks, to understand who they are beyond their skills so that you can be able to get them excited about what you're trying to do in your business. I assume that as the business owner, you're passionate about the business because you're spending, let's say, every day on it, obviously. So you have a certain level of passion for it. It's really important to be able to get your team members passionate about it too. Honestly, it's going to if they're not passionate about it, they're still going to do their job, I guess, whatever. But there is going to be unexpected benefits, I swear, if they also really understand the mission of your business and they get passionate about it as well, even that fraction that you have. And it's going to allow them to give you advice on what's happening on their end that they might not have told you. But now they're going to tell you. It's really going to allow them, it's going to give them that kind of power, empower them to be able to give you advice as well that, you know, you may not understand that is happening on your end. So I think that's what I would really say is just employ the soft skills in communicating, get them passionate about your business and your mission, and really feel like this is something that you guys are doing together for the greater good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with all of that. Obviously, I think it's almost second nature. So let's move on to client experience and retention. So how do you think systems can improve the client onboarding experience?
Systems, I use Subsado for the client onboarding experience. I let's do an exercise and let's say like let how would the client experience be if it was manual versus if it was automatic? And I'll say at even your best, your most type A person, if you're doing it all manually, even if you're the most type A person in the world and you are going to send something at a certain time and it's always been like that, you really have to understand that life is not type A. Life is wild. And things are gonna hit you at certain points when you feel like you need to be doing something. And it has the ability to really knock you out of your own system and schedule that it's all manual. And it can really impede you when it comes to, let's say, following up with clients, making sure that they're properly nurtured after the discovery call, um, all of that, giving them the right contracts, all of that. So what automation does at the end of the day, it frees up your time completely so that it kind of frees up your brain space as well, so that you can start thinking about, let's say, the growth of your company, or if you want to spend more time with your family, you can think about that. But really, it just frees up your brain space and it allows you to not have that worry that maybe deep down, even if you don't have even if you don't have that, feel like you have that worry, it allows you to completely free up that time so that you can be able to focus on what you need to focus on. And it also allows you to kind of let life happen without feeling like, oh, I have this business stuff that you need to do. When it comes to the client experience, I do encourage fully automating it as much as possible because it's the one thing. There's certain things that you can automate, but lead some things it's partial automation. Some things that I do recommend to do it more manually. I would say client experience automated as much as possible. There's only good things that can come out of that, especially because it's a lot of written work usually that you're doing. So you can really automate it. You can automate all of it really. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, it also adds as far as the client experience is, it's very consistent across the board. So it allows for consistency with your brand, which will also allow your clients to feel more nurtured and taken care of, and they'll become more loyal if they know what to expect. So yeah. So I do have a question on what are some of the tech favorites among OBMs for anything that we've talked about so far?
The tech favorites, I kind of touched on it a little bit. Okay. So for project management and communication, I love Slack. I also I love Dubsado for client experience. Um I also I love Google Drive, and I'm in it a lot more than people might think when it comes to organizing things and creating sheets, all of that. I create custom management systems all the times for data management or analytical management. So I really love using Google Sheets, honestly. That can it's honestly when it comes to like organizing things or kind of honestly just brainstorming, that's usually the first platform that I use, and I have it pop up for for brainstorming even as well. So that's another one I would talk about. I love using Figma because I really want, I really think that having high quality graphics are so important. So I use Figma for a lot of my social media marketing, because if you've used Canva before, I'm kind of comparing it against Canva. If you use Canva before, honestly, Canva is great and all that, but Figma just gives you that little bit more customization and allows you to create really these amazing designs that, in my opinion, help you stand out a little bit more than the typical Canva design. So that's another thing that I use. I use Figma for my graphics, and that's for me specifically. But I use a lot of other stuff as well. But those are the like three or four that I can think of off the top of my head that I really like using. Yeah.
Can you think of any tools or systems that would help business owners nurture leads and client relationships better one over another?
Nurture leads and client relationships. I use Flowdesk for my business and for my clients as well. For that's really what I think of when it comes to nurturing people over a period of time, because social media is great for really getting those people from random corners of the internet into kind of your sphere and having them be interested in you when they follow you and they happen to be see you on their social media. That's great. But email marketing is so important to be able to get people really, really regularly being able to see you and understand your message on a regular basis. Statistics show that so many people still regularly check their emails every morning. They open up their emails, they read the subject lines. It's just the best way to get people still nurturing into your business, understanding it, and really just getting them into the funnel. And I love using Flowdesks. I've used other platforms as well, like Active Campaign. I've used Active Campaign. I've used con is it Constant Contact?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that and ConvertKit. I used to use ConvertKit, but
ConvertKit I've used before. Yeah, you know what? What I would say, I'm not surprised. I'm not gonna like shower Flowdesk with compliments, honestly. What I really like about Flowdesk is it has really pretty email templates. So that's why I really like it. I honestly, I've been talking about systems and all this and that, but one thing about me is I really love aesthetics, and I love when things look pretty. I will kind of dilly in the, little bits and make sure that things are center, and I'll play with the colors and this and that. I really care about the brand colors and just making sure that every design makes sense for what my client wants to do. So that's why I love using Flowdesk, because for me, it's the easiest to kind of, have that happen. And then when it comes to the analytics and stuff like that, I will say like Active Campaign, it takes itself a lot more seriously for the important stuff like that, analytics and all that. But Flowdesk is not completely useless. It has analytics. It's just not as specific. What I will say that is the difference is that Active Campaign will just give you the data straight out, while Flowdesk, it has like the surrounding data. And then what I usually have to do is I have to go do the math manually to be able to get some of the specific data that I want. But it takes like what, like 20 seconds. It's just a bit more it's just a bit more work on that end, and it doesn't have specifically like everything. Like it doesn't have certain like segmentation features that Active Campaign has. Basically, if you really just want to be able to see the analytics and be able to use it and like scale in an insane way and kind of really look at the granularness of it all, Active Campaign is great, and it still has really good templates and designs as well. And then if you really want like pretty emails, then use Flowdesk, and it's still really great. Like Flowdesk has Flowdesk checkouts, it has Flowdesk forms. Um, what else does it have? It has Flowdesk automations if you want to have like a welcome sequence, nurture sequence, all of that. So it really does have everything. It's just not as crazy, as something like an Active Campaign.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm now using Squarespace because I've just honed in my email campaigns where they're super simple, so I don't need all the automation and the visual tree that you would get when I used ConvertKit. But I do miss ConvertKit a little bit. But so I noticed we're rounding out. We've got about 10 more minutes, and I have ask a lot of questions and forgot to take the time to ask if anyone else has any questions that they would like to ask you, or if they have any questions on systems. If you do, please just feel free to unmute and ask away. That's what we're here for.
And by the way, Christy, I've used Squarespace before. It's really good. It's pretty simple, right? But it
It
just
is.
does the trick.
Yeah, it's very simple, but I'm actually loving Squarespace in the sense of I'm housing um, my business there, obviously, but then I've moved my emails over there, and I keep my courses on there. I'm building my member site now, and so it's very versatile, very super easy intuitively as far as the flow. It's really drag and drop, super easy to use. So and it looks good, so, and it's able to
In,
keep up. So that's always a plus.
in general, I'm always like a big fan of just using as little platforms as possible while still keeping the quality there, because it's never, in my opinion, that serious that you need like 10 platforms. You're gonna get intuitively confused. I feel like, yeah, the lesser platforms, the better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to keep my tech stack small. So I have Squarespace is my main client facing, and then I use Debzato for my client management. It
Mm,
also does my contracts and payment and that sort of thing.
yeah.
Um, and then, gosh, what else do I use? ClickUp is my personal PM tool. It helps me stay organized. It was a love-hate relationship at first.
Yeah.
Um, it took a minute to learn it, but now that I have, it's like I can't imagine using anything else. So
Yeah.
for the listeners, if they're struggling with ClickUp, just hang in there. I promise it gets better. But there were several times where I just wanted to call it quits and totally use something else. But then I knew I would have to stop and learn another platform. So
Yeah,
in that,
exactly.
like, let's just focus on this one. It'll get better, and it did. It did.
That
I
was me
just
with Dubsado. Oh my God, it took
uh,
way too long, like a year, like more than a year. Because I
with
kept running into,
Dubsado.
but yeah, with Dubsado, like I would be parked at customer support trying to figure everything out, and they would help me and all that. I just felt it was so different. I used HoneyBook before that. Um, so HoneyBook is great, honestly, and I know they've like updated a lot of their stuff, but
They
I've
have.
already used Dubsado. I already invested so much time into it. I was like, I'm not going back. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a toss up between Dubsado and HoneyBook, but I think the ultimate thing for me, which this has been about a year or so, but and I know HoneyBook has changed some things, but it just everything I had to piecemeal everything together because HoneyBook at the time didn't do document signs and that, you had to bring in DocuSign and they didn't
Yeah.
do payments and you had to bring that in and that, they didn't do a lot of the things that I knew I needed to do because when I picked it knowing where I wanted to be in 3 to 5 years. And so I wanted to pick something that would grow with me.
Yeah.
And it just was like, okay, there's so many different things that I have to plug into HoneyBook. It makes no sense. And plus,
Yeah.
each one of those things costs more money, and I could get it all with Debs So I ended up just going with Debs
Dubsado. Yeah. I don't regret it now, especially now that, I spent so much time on it. Now that
Yeah.
I understand it, I really love it.
Yeah. If you use Google, which you do, I've heard you. So have you seen the new ClickUp thing where they've integrated the calendar in now, and it's way better than it was before. But you can integrate and sync your Google Calendar. It's just new out this week, but it's amazing already. I'm
Really?
loving it. Yeah. And
Oh
I
my God.
noticed in the bar at the top, it has like your next thing that's coming up, and you can click on it right there, and it'll pop up. It integrates the Loom or the Zoom links and everything. So I think I'm really gonna like that feature.
ClickUp is amazing when it comes to giving the customers what they want. Like honestly, it's kind of creepy. I would think, oh, ClickUp needs this thing, and then like 2 weeks later, they're like, new feature. Da, da, da. And I'm like, they hear me?
Yeah, yeah. So I do want to open it up real quick because I don't know if Cindy, if you can unmute and you have questions, you're totally welcome to do that. And Lena, I know you're here in the background. If you have any questions, you feel free to pop in and just interrupt if you do. But until then, I think I've got one question for you that I would be um, remiss not to ask before we let you go today.
Mhm.
So, what would you say? What's the number one time-saving system every business owner should implement as soon as possible?
When keeping in mind different levels of technology familiarity, different, let's say, businesses that a business owner might have, different strategies, all that, different time priorities. I would say the one thing that I would that I would say still applies no matter what, I've talked about this before, is that client experience. So definitely getting that client experience in there. Honestly, you can still market relatively well as long, even if you don't have a system necessarily, as long as you're consistent on social media and as long as, your links work and it gets them into, let's say the appointments or this or whatever. But really just making sure that that client experience is there, I would say is so important because once you really do implement it, it's super leave it alone, don't touch it, all of that. And you can kind of focus on more of the, let's say, customized or finicky like systems that may need certain updates or this or that. That's one thing that I would say is really important to have your system, to get systemized is that client experience on Dubsado, Honeybook, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ada, it has been, and I did it again. Ada. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
I have a friend that's Ada, and I have to keep reminding myself
I know,
it's
you
not
told me.
Ada.
Yeah.
But we so appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us about systems. And I know we've touched on quite a bit today, but we've got a recording that will be available in Facebook as a replay, and then of course we'll get this to you as well. But anything you would like to leave us with before we finish the call today?
Can I put you on my story and we can say hi?
Sure. Hello, hello. I don't know if the volume is there, but
The picture.
yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Christy and Lena, for allowing me to come on here and talk. And yeah, thank you to Cindy and all the people who should are watching on replay.
Yep. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, and I hope everyone has a great week. Oh.
Thank you, Ada.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.